And when people are on their phone,
Yeah.
it's like that opportunity for that kind of connection. It's like they're making the choice, to be immersed in the phone and not to be building trust, not to be building this kind of relationality, not to be contributing, not to be investing in, connection that then like at a larger scale is like investing in community. Like the loneliness is like, I don't feel like I'm held by a community. I feel like I am just this kind of like atom bouncing around, not part of like a larger kind of molecule. And I think it's a huge source of pain and longing for folks.
Hello, Lane. Happy Wednesday.
Oh my gosh. Happy Wednesday, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. We're actually recording this on a Wednesday, and it comes out on a Wednesday. Oh my God. What are the chances?
I don't know.
I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. Listen, we're not mathematicians, okay?
That is, I keep telling people math, I don't do it. That's what calculators are for.
That's right.
How are you enjoying? I know that you're from Michigan, so you are not new to a Midwest spring, but I'm curious how you're finding this Chicago spring we're actually finding ourselves in.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Oh my God, what a nice contrast to the 6 months of winter that we just suffered through.
I know.
Yeah, it's great. I will say the one downside, like my mom's texting me late at night, there's a tornado on the way. It's like, okay. She was actually, a what?
Did you grow up with tornadoes in Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing.
You know what you're doing. Yeah, my husband does not know what he's doing with tornadoes, and he freaks out every fucking time, and it's hysterical to me because I'm like, Tuesday, no big deal. I grew up with these in Ohio, but they are new to the Chicago area.
Yeah,
so.
and it is scary. It is scary. But So yeah, that's the one downside of spring. But other than that, it's been great.
Well, guess what? I've got a segue for you. Speaking of tornadoes,
woo!
Today's guest and I talk about the tornado that is about to hit the counseling industry.
Yes.
Please pat me on the back for that segue. That was really good.
It was really quite good.
Thank you. So this episode gets into some AI shit. What did you think about my convo with Earl?
Ooh. Yeah. AI in therapy is, to me, feels like a recipe for disaster. And your conversation with Earl was so interesting because I think there is so much chatter about AI, and it's so interesting to hear from someone who has so extensively studied it and kind of has more of a voice grounded in like reason and logic than I think.
And experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was great to hear from him, and also a little scary hearing him say that he's scared for the future as it relates to AI.
Yeah, right. Eep is right. Yeah. I don't know. I think I said this in the episode. Maybe I did or maybe I didn't. It just feels so hard to conceptualize of things that we have no frame of reference to conceptualize yet.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole idea of AI as a reality in our day-to-day, like what that feels like.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like we've opened Pandora's box and we are just at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. We are absolutely just at the beginning.
Like it's not even
right.
Yeah. So that is kind of scary. But I think it's also really important to talk about and listen from experts about. Yeah, I think that's really important to do, even though it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I think, this goes to one of the things that I want for therapists overall is to learn how to sit in the unknown rather than have to have all the answers. And so, this episode I think it's really going to be challenging for some people to sit in the potential instead of in this is how you protect yourself from, AI taking over the therapy industry. Like, Earl and I talked about a lot of hypotheses and possibilities, but none of this is guaranteed. None of it is, known. It's just unknown. We are on a precipice looking over the abyss going,
Absolutely. And I feel like I don't think there's any way that that AI will completely take over the therapeutic world or therapeutic spaces, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. Like that would be wild.
I kind of think people are always going to want a human connection, but
Yeah, I
TBD.
agree. Yeah, we'll just buckle up and we'll find out.
Buckle up, buttercups. Well, let me introduce you to my friend Earl J. Wagner, PhD. Earl J. Wagner, PhD, is a Chicago based AI researcher and former Google senior software engineer with over a decade of experience advancing conversational systems. His work spans patents, top tier publications, and large scale training in nonviolent communication. Drawing on interests in mysticism and perception, he explores how technology and perspective shape understanding. So please enjoy my conversation with my good friend, Earl Wagner. Hello, Earl.
Hello. Here we are.
I haven't had like a really good friend on the podcast in a minute. And so I feel weird like going straight into like, oh, this is my podcast robot voice. But hi, friend.
Hi, friend. Yeah, it's been, yeah, really enjoy kind of, yeah, our friendship's grown like over the past couple of years, the past 2 or 3 years that we've known each other.
I know. And I know, and anyone who knows me who's listening to this will be horrified to know you and I actually meet regularly because everybody else is like, I can't get on your schedule. Well, you know what Earl does, guys? He like, when we're meeting, he'll be like, when are we meeting next? That is how to get me on a regular basis. But don't
That's,
everybody do that because there's only so much time in a day. But
yeah.
yeah, so you and I met at an was it the Atlantic? The Atlantic had some sort of something or other. And I remember my friend Jennifer Contrino Panning sent it to me. And for some reason, I was like, I need to be there.
Mhm.
And at the beginning of the day, there was a gal like doing the like opening or whatever. And she was like, why are you here today? And I said, I think there's a gift for me here. And she was like, oh, that's fucking cool. And I'm like, I know. That's what always happens. And then I met you and had no idea, but you have introduced me to so many things. And our exchange of ideas has just been so cool and really, I don't know, enlivening and expansive. And so I'm really happy to share our conversations with the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, that's totally, I mean, that really captures it. I mean, for me, even from our first conversation, I think it was like the future. They had like folks like Derek Thompson, who just wrote that abundance book, different speakers. And I remember seeing you. And of course you had like with the rainbow hair. And I'm like, okay, this person's probably interesting. They probably got it in perspective. And we just started talking and totally geeking out on some of those themes around like Enneagram,
Yep.
adult, stages of adult development, you know. Yeah, so much good stuff. I know we've talked about, for you, like the right use of power,
Mhm.
there was a lot of overlap with that. And for me, like interest in nonviolent communication. So
Yep.
just so many kind of like, yeah, I love just like all that geeking out that we've been doing over the years. For me, like I'm gonna get it out. I'm an Enneagram type 5. It's like I just totally get into, stuff and love talking. I love hearing, conversation and getting passionate about like different topics. And so, to meet a sort of like-minded person, a fellow traveler who's also passionate about this stuff. And then for me, it's also been really inspiring to see how you put this into practice. It's not just like
Aw.
talk, but it's like it's really showing up through, through your podcast, through your work on coaching, through you setting up, programs to share what you learned. It's really inspiring, like I said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And if you are listening to this and you have no idea what the Enneagram is, there's several Enneagram episodes. I'm thinking Rachel Alexandria is probably the one to go back and listen to because it's a real like dive into like what the Enneagram actually is. So just FYI, because it will probably be coming up in several parts of this conversation. But the specific reason that you are here is one specific skill set that I definitely do not have, and we've dug into a little bit in our conversations, but therapists are freaking out about AI.
Yep.
And you have a PhD in AI.
That's
And yeah, we've talked a little bit about it. And so why don't we actually go back and like tell people sort of your trajectory of like where you are in the world and what you're doing?
Yeah, for me, like the key thing is that I've had kind of these two different sort of paths, like left brain and right brain, basically. Left brain, like you mentioned, yeah. So, I grew up in Philly, went to college at Berkeley, studied computer science, followed this kind of very like STEM path, did a master's at MIT, got my PhD at Northwestern in AI. And
So
then
he's not very smart is what we're telling you all.
it's like I played that game. I've been playing that game, you
Yeah.
know, and
Right.
I get it. And I get those folks, I get it's like this sort of mindset, the perspective of, I was at Google for 10 years, worked in AI at Google, worked on the assistant, built a feature for guiding people through cooking recipes. So you could talk to the device and it's telling you step by step. And it was like, it was really meaningful. It was really personally kind of energizing to contribute to like help people, do like everyday tasks. I have a lot more concerns. I mean, this will come up. I have a lot more concerns about where AI is going, especially after ChatGPT, especially in the world of like, generated content that is just, it's like people are already addicted to social media. We don't need like more stuff for people to get addicted to, but that's going to be like later on in the discussion.
Yeah.
Anyway, focused, staying focused here. So that's been, and for me, like for a long time, I had that kind of techno optimism, seeing the ways that technology could help people. Now it's like a little bit more balance of optimism and skepticism or concern,
Yeah.
but still hopeful. I mean, I'm still working in tech, and I'll talk more about that in some of the projects. So that's been always this. It's like, yeah, like having those talents and applying in that way, playing that game. Like I said, the Bay Area kind of mindset and ethos, and I've also always been like a spiritual seeker. Even as a kid, I was fascinated by the idea that there was something beyond what we perceive directly. Something unspoken, like that's kind of beyond the culture. So drawn to like the counterculture.
Hmm.
As a kid, I was fascinated by like UFOs, psychic powers. Bigfoot, is the Earth hollow? Like all these kinds of stuff. I just got, they like find these books. As soon as I could read, I was reading these books about all this stuff, and that stayed with me. I mean, even through like high school, and college, being fascinated by like altered states of consciousness. I had a book, with that title, getting into meditation, getting into psychedelics. And then it evolved, and for me, it led to kind of a fascination by like the limits of human capabilities. And, when people are like especially intuitive or empathic or just they're tuning into something, that you don't see that commonly, it's like how are people who are like have that sort of clarity within themselves, they're able to embody something kind of otherworldly. For me, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's like, yeah, really curious about what's going on there. I'm having, like some people you're in their presence and it's like something's going on. It's like, yeah, it's something that my left brain can't explain, but my right brain, this kind of like, the intuitive self is kind of like, okay, so I can feel like something's happening here, or you witness something.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like meditation, gotten into Enneagram personality types. I mentioned nonviolent communication, NVC. And even like 5 or 10 years ago, I had friends, in these communities talking about like the impact of trauma, gaba mate, like all this stuff. And I was just kind of like, whatever, I still like, it hadn't sunk in then. And they were all like, just give it time. Just give it
Yeah.
time. Then I got into internal family systems. And that like was this whole other kind of framework that made it all make sense. So that's kind of a little bit of my own sort of like spiritual intellectual journey, through
Yeah.
these areas. With the theme of the podcast, it comes from my own kind of personal experience. Growing up in Philly, some of my earliest memories were my parents, just a lot of stress at home, my parents fighting. And it was kind of like earth shattering. Like,
Yeah.
it was really upsetting. And that sort of stayed with me as this kind of like a hunger, like a yearning. It's like, how is
Mm.
it that people can get along? It's like, how can we both be ourselves,
Oh, wow.
but also like have ways of like reconciling conflict
Yeah.
that's authentic, but also different from like yelling at each other. Cause I played that game too, and my family was
Yeah.
very kind of like, it was a lot of like
Hmm.
big
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
setting boundaries by like pushing back, I feel like
Mm.
and realizing it's like, that's one way of expressing. That's one way of setting boundaries. That's one way of like, I guess not self care, but like self assertion or self advocacy.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, it's like seeing the cost of that, you know, and experiencing the cost of that. Me being like a sensitive kid, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that, I think that led me to a lot to like I said, meditation, to kind of noticing my own reactivity, tuning into that. Enneagram, to notice like, oh, like different people are like coming from completely different perspectives, having totally
Yeah.
different worldviews,
Yeah.
different ways of like that they make sense of the world, that the world works, different like cause and effect, NVC around like, oh, that at a deep level, it's like we're having these feelings. Well, underneath the feelings are the needs that are met or not met.
Yeah.
Choice about how we meet our needs, all those kinds of things. So I want
Yeah.
to pause because that was like a sort of a tour through me, a little bit of like
Yeah.
my psyche, but yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to honor, like, that's really tender, you sharing those like early parts of yourself and the survival strategies that develop because of that. So even though I, know your story in many ways, I hadn't heard you say it quite that way. And I'm just really appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. That means my need to be seen.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
good. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Um, well, speaking of, I don't know, I have no segue. I want to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Um, so you shared that you had concerns, and I can sort of frame this in we're recording this at the end of March, and I just got back from the Psychotherapy Networker conference that happens in DC every year. There was a panel with two different therapists on there. One of them was more of an AI skeptic, and the other one was like super pro AI, more from the space of like how it can be used as a tool to help therapists write notes and treatment plan and that sort of stuff. And I'm planning to have at least one of them on to also talk about this. But what I found really interesting in it was the therapist reactions.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing it already, right? Like, and not even just therapists. Everybody is like, don't use ChatGPT, use Claude instead, or don't use AI at all because it's taking so much water. And I have really enjoyed using ChatGPT and Claude as an Enneagram 3 to get shit done. It's been very helpful in my productivity. So I'm a fan of that, but I'm certainly not a fan of potential consequences that could happen in the therapy industry specifically, and of course, obviously globally. So I'm curious, as you've been, from where you started to where you see AI going now, what's the trajectory been and what concerns you?
So, like I said, I mean, I was a part of the San Francisco Bay Area tech scene for a while. Living in Chicago, you and I both in the Chicago area these days. You know, a lot of the folks are really concerned about AI taking over. They talk about the alignment problem. It's like
Terminator 2 style?
exactly like Skynet, like HAL 2000, or like all kinds of stuff. And I think that's not like what I'm actually worried about. I mean, I think her, if you remember Spike Jones,
Yep.
from like 10 years ago, is 13 years ago, whatever, that's much more sort of on the mind. It's like we already see people addicted to TikTok,
Yeah.
and Instagram Reels and YouTube. And we're already living in this age of digital addiction. And now I just saw an article about AI psychosis, where
Yes.
it's like, yeah,
Well,
and
I have a friend who had a client where AI convinced the client that the therapist was being unethical.
yeah,
And then, yeah, there's now a lawsuit. So,
uh, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, this stuff is like, who predicted this? It's like, this is,
yeah,
so it's hitting us, it's hitting the culture, it's hitting society. It's just mind boggling. But like the AIs, and, I trust, these are like the technologists, it's like the vast majority of them have good intention. I mean, they're scrambling. It's like, oh man, it's like, okay. They might not necessarily be looking at the transcripts directly, but it's like they're sort of seeing other indicators of like, okay, wait a second. Somebody's spending like hours a day. It's like, what's going on here? Like, but it's a real issue. Like, just as humans, we have such a capacity to sort of manipulating words, you know?
yeah,
It's like, and as humans, it's like we just are so, we respond so much to words, to storytelling. I mean, it's really deep within our, collective psyches. And so, yeah, spiral out in like thought, in thought patterns or beliefs.
yeah.
And the AIs, what they're so good at is like,
And when there's a loneliness epidemic and
yeah,
people literally do not have connection to talk to, I think that's the other danger. There's I think the podcast is called Flesh and Code. Have you heard of this?
oh no. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's fascinating. Gosh, I can't remember the company, but there's one particular company that was creating AI companions, and this was like years ago, and many people were having full-on relationships with
Yeah.
these AI bots. And then, of course, like all the ethical stuff comes in, and it's a fascinating listen. If anybody's a podcast, obviously you're a podcast listener. What am I saying? Go listen to Flesh and Code. It's fascinating. It's not about therapy stuff, but it's definitely about AI and relationships and how people sort of get hooked, really.
And it's a huge issue. You're talking about the loneliness epidemic. I mean, so many people, it's like this relationship with their AI might be the only like securely attached relationship they have in their life. Maybe they've
Right.
never had that modeled for them. And
Right.
that's what's so compelling about this, where it's like they're getting this kind of affirmation. They feel like they're being seen. Maybe they're getting a kind of a verbal attunement. We're
Right.
going into uncharted waters, as a society, as a planet, with all this. It's really, and at the same time, it's like, with the kind of care and intentionality, could these chatbots really help with people's healing? Modeling
Right.
something. It's more than just an hour a week. That somebody might be seeing a therapist. It could be. I think about that. I mean, I see like my friends who are parents, just how the child like it really like goes to them to have their experience witnessed. Goes to
Yeah.
them for attunement, but how exhausting it is for the parents, especially like when they're working full time and everything. And it's like, could they have like a animatronic robotic like unicorn who's like their buddy who like also
Yeah.
teaches them life lessons, and so, I mean, it's inevitable.
Well,
It's happening.
and then
Yeah.
we have the movie Megan that I'm thinking of, which is what that was supposed to be too.
Yeah.
Well, and in terms of therapists, I mean, one of the big fears that I hear from therapists, or rather I see on the Facebook groups and in spaces, is that AI will start doing therapy and replace therapists. And my thought process with that has always been, well, sure, AI can empathize, but it's not really empathizing. It's not really going to be able to attune to you. And you were like, well, it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I'm getting goosebumps because it's like, it's scary, like just how, people get distracted. They're not necessarily giving you their full like attention, but could the avatar on the screen, appear like it's giving you its full attention, that you're like, just with this kind of that and they're getting better and better at sort of all the different cues, all the different sort of nonverbals to convey that, to make it especially addictive, to make it especially compelling.
Hmm.
uh, Combined with global capitalism, I mean, it's really concerning what's coming.
Exactly. Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was like, it's not the AI that it's the problem, it's the people that are creating it. And he was like, that's kind of like the argument of it's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. And I was like, touche.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's
Because it
like
is
it's
it
all.
is also both, right? Where we are in this late stage capitalism is certainly different than maybe at other times in history. It's this crazy confluence of circumstances, right? That we've already been addicted to social media. There's a loneliness epidemic. There's a high distrust for authority right now. We have a government that is literally full of buffoons and just people that are toddlers, right? And people are looking for a hero. They're looking for something that's going to save them. They're looking for something that's going to make them feel better
Yeah.
in a world where there really isn't a lot that's out there to make you feel better right now.
There's a lot of like short-term stuff that isn't, stuff that makes us feel like stuff that brings us pleasure, but maybe doesn't help us flourish
Right.
and, and like help us really thriving, and just the challenge of kind of finding those things and not being distracted. There's so many distractions. I mean, that's capitalism is great at creating things for people to become addicted to, because so many of these industries, that's their business model. If you look at like, I mean, I know you want to get back to the therapist and the AI. We'll get there,
I
but
know.
it's also like, you look at like industry after industry. It's like, I think something like, 10% of, people who drink are responsible for 50, 60, 80% of the alcohol, same with
Yep.
gambling, same with, you know, um, Apple, like a huge chunk of their revenues is from like loot boxes, it's from like people playing the games and they just got to get to the next level.
And what you're saying actually, so just to frame this for folks, I haven't talked a lot about vertical development yet on here. And I just finished a course yesterday with this company called Aphoria, and I'm going to have somebody on the podcast to talk a little bit about them. So vertical development is essentially the idea that just like we have childhood development and we see very predictable stages that people go through, there's also adult development as well. And there are generally predictable stages, not necessarily always linear. We're not just in one stage. And, also the caveat that all models are wrong, but some are useful, sometimes.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking about this from essentially like the personal responsibility argument around AI is that like, well, people should just, if they're consenting to use it, then they're consenting and informed on all of the things that can go wrong. But if people are at an earlier stage of development where they don't necessarily have access to look at the bigger picture and what the consequences might be, then whose responsibility is it? And I think, from our perspective, in terms of vertical development, spiral dynamics, whatever you're looking at, whoever has the highest level of awareness does have the responsibility. But capitalism has never taken that responsibility. They have always the capitalists, whoever, right? But mostly corporations, if they're focused on making money, they're really not focused on caring for the consumer, and they love to pretend that they are. So I'm curious, like having been at Google, and like being part of the scene, like what does that bring up for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like like a yes and no in what you're sharing. For me, like a turning point was neoliberalism, basically Reaganomics. The '80s,
Mm,
Margaret Thatcher. Where it's like, you saw corporations before might have had like a kind of investment in the long term. It's like they didn't want to kill their consumers. I mean,
yeah.
in general, or
Yeah.
maybe local business had a commitment to the community. You
Yeah.
know, it used to be that like, the local, restaurant would be buying, t-shirts for, Little League or like whatever,
Yeah.
maybe they still do, but like that kind of commitment to the community has disappeared. That kind
Yeah.
of commitment, or it's like less and less. That kind of corporate commitment that corporations have, even to their home country, with like the rise of globalism, it's like they're virtual.
Yeah. So they
You
don't
know,
know who their customer is.
it's more like they no longer feel any kind of like allegiance or
Mm.
commitment to the well-being of
Oof.
the society, the community, the culture from which
Mhm.
in which they arose.
And can
Um,
I pause you there for
yeah,
just a moment to bring this to therapists right now?
yeah,
Because I actually, I'm sorry, you guys, but I wonder if therapists are also in that a little bit too, where therapists are in a lot of pain. I see a collective struggle, especially since COVID. We were overworked, we were objectified. It's not been a cute time to be a therapist in the year of our Lord post 2020. Um, and when we feel, uh, I don't know, aggrieved, whatever word you want to put there, it's harder to remember how important it is to center the client's experience. And I don't, obviously, I'm not like pointing fingers, not all therapists do this, but I think it's also easy in our own pain to forget as we're looking at like, how do we take care of ourselves? What's actually happening for the people that we're supposed to be caring for? So I don't know. I say that as a little bit of a like, yeah, let's remember what we're here for. Because when I have conversations with like, let's say employees at a group practice who are like, well, I deserve XYZ. Who are you here for? Like,
yeah,
yes, we deserve to, make a living wage and all that sort of stuff. But let's center back in who are we here for? We don't have to sacrifice ourselves, but we also have to just remember like who's the most important person in this relationship.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, back to what you were saying.
Oh no, I mean, it's you're talking about some of the challenges, that are kind of widespread. It's like everybody feels like they're having to do more and more with less and less. Like that
Yeah.
old expression. So
Yeah.
it's therapists, everybody working in the medical field. It's like they feel like they
Yeah.
have to take on more work. They have less
Yeah.
time, to be present with the clients. Yeah, it's really distressing. And people point to kind of capitalism, and I think that's part of it. And it's also, I mean, you and I have talked about it. It's like there were ways that sort of people used to get support from communities, like local communities, like in-person communities, and also contribute to the local communities. And I mean, I remember seeing this. I was with my mother, and just like we were getting ready for dinner, she's there with her two sisters talking with a grandmother. And I was just kind of noticing, and it's like they were just talking, the four of them, three sisters and the mother. And I felt really tender. It was really moving. And I just had this thought pop into my head of like, oh, and when people are on their phone, it's
Yeah.
like that opportunity for that kind of connection. It's like they're making the choice. It's like, to be immersed in the phone and not to be building trust, not to be building this kind of relationality, not to be contributing, not to be investing in, connection that then like at a larger scale is like investing in community. And so we're all just kind of going on, like we're all kind of around, like the loneliness is like, I don't feel like I'm held by a community. I feel like I am
Yeah.
just this kind of like atom bouncing around, not part of like a larger kind of molecule. And I think it's a huge source of pain and longing for folks, And so, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an existential ennui, right? That sort of shows up in the therapy room, I think. And that like it's so overwhelming because it's a systemic issue that therapists are not equipped to
yeah,
really deal with that because we're also, I mean, I've said this before, therapists are not prepared for this time in history. This is not what we talk about in school. Like I try to talk about this stuff in my class, but it's one class in, how 60 hours that, or well, it's more than 60 hours, but 60 credit hours that people are taking over the course of their degree. Yeah, like we need an upgrade in our training. We also need to hold ourselves accountable to how are we making sure that we are fostering deep relationships and connections? Are we connected to community? And as I say this, like I'm kind of going through the list for myself, and I've really wanted my husband and I signed up for Skokie has like a local like first responder community and mental health professionals can join it, and we're in it, but I've never gone to anything because I'm so fucking tired at the end of the day, and I
yeah,
still haven't gotten everything done, and I'm like, I
yeah.
want that connection in my community with my neighbors to know the people that are around me. What is that? Like, is that a product of technology and the human being literally not being able to tolerate the speed, or like what else are you seeing around that?
Yeah. I mean, that's, technology is just, it's designed to really grab our attention. And so we have so many options. It's like so many
I know.
distractions. It's like, how many times have you made plans with good friends and they flake because they're going to be streaming? It's like there's something new on Netflix, and it's like I mean, you and I, we've both seen it. Everybody on this podcast, I'm imagining, you've seen it in some ways with like the flake rate before and after COVID. I mean, it's just it's like a step
Yeah.
function. Just
Yeah.
during COVID, we hungered down. We kind of developed a kind of habits around content consumption, and now it's become a
Mhm.
part of our life where we've all found, I don't want to say everybody, but the vast majority of my folks, the folks in my communities, the people that I know, it's like, yeah, we have our preferred. I mean, I always find it amusing, like that, you go to a bar and like, you see like, all along the mirror, the back wall, it's like all these different flavors of alcohol. And it's like all these different labels and names for alcohol and all this. And it's like, they're really just selling alcohol. I don't mean to be critical, but it's just amusing to me that what makes this compelling is like, it's something kind of essential. It's something intrinsic. And similar with technology, it's like so much about grabbing our attention in various different flavors.
Well, even beyond that though, like I have a picture of a graph in my head that I've seen essentially about the rate of technological advancement, right? That was like do 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 do, and then it was like fnirf.
Yeah.
If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see I just went straight up basically, but the fnirf, that's definitely a technical term for going straight up on a graph. And I'm thinking about our nervous systems. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about literally the capacity of the human brain to process the speed, and like because our attention is certainly one thing, and I think that's really important, but also just our relationship to what is supposed to be done with all of these. Some of them are tools, right? For me, a lot of it is work. I get so distracted by work, and there's all these tools I can use to do my work, and so I just want to keep doing that. And sometimes it's YouTube or, like you said, Netflix, all these other things. I can't keep up. And
Yeah.
I think there's just something else there too. And I wonder, connecting it back to AI. will the next iteration of humanity need to start defining what it means to be human in contrast to technology in a different way that we haven't explored before?
Yeah. And here, I mean, this is coming from like, Dr. PhD AI, in AI, like whatever that means. But like basically, when you talk about like tools don't have agency.
Right.
Hammer's a tool, screwdriver's a tool, a plate, a dinner plate is a tool, an instant pot is a tool. When you're talking about the agency that these AIs have, that ChatGPT has, it's a
Mm.
whole different species.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh.
So the only thing that's comparable is like literally like sprites and fairies, like superstition. Like when
Hmm.
there was some kind of like when humanity had like some kind of sense, or like angels, or spirits,
Hmm.
when we had some kind of sense that there was like some kind of entities that weren't quite human, but they were out there and like making changes in the world, they could bedevil us.
Hmm. Which also brings us to aliens because
Yeah.
but no, take me seriously for just a second.
Okay.
Earl, I always send Earl like the pseudoscience shit that I find, and he's like, "This is bullshit," and I'm like, "But what if it's real?"
What if?
So just go with me for a second.
All
So
right.
it would be interesting if extraterrestrial beings. I mean, we're hearing that disclosure is going to happen, very soon with the government. We're already seeing a lot of things come out. So what if, like, we literally have to define what human is against alien creatures from outer space and against AI? I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least it'll be the computers. We have to define what it means to be human. So thinking about like what this does in therapy, for
Yeah.
therapy, with
Yeah.
uh the industry in general, what would you say to a therapist who's like, I want to do the best I can to try to keep myself relevant in
Mhm.
a world that's going to be inundated by computer therapy?
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes back to like having real clarity around your kind of contribution, like your niche, your identity, like what specifically, even like, this is kind of like, what's your vision and mission? What's the kind of world that you want to create, that you want to contribute to? And then like in terms of your vision and then your mission, it's like, what specifically, where are you channeling your talents? Because what's going to happen is so much of this is going to become like the technology, the substrate that's sort of like the day to day it's going to change radically. Now, part of what's happening within therapy, therapy like medicine, like law, like accounting, there's licensure. So those won't change as much as like software engineering, there's like constant layoffs because, the
Hmm.
practice, I mean, for me personally, software engineering, like Thanksgiving of 2025 was the biggest change in my entire software engineering career when some of the new models came out and I just completely switched to using AI pretty much constantly through my workday.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it was really transformative. It's not going to be so fast, with therapy, but what's going to happen is there are going to be pressures. The pressures are going to look like, people deciding it's like, do I go to the therapist or do I keep talking to, ChatGPT? And ChatGPT has my, the whole, it's like learned so much about me and it shows
Yeah.
that it really understands me, and like that kind of borderline, we were talking about
Hmm.
AI psychosis, I mean, that's kind of a real risk. I think it's going to raise a lot of questions about the social role of therapy. Like, what does it mean, for two people to be in a room? One big challenge that arose with COVID is the switch to Zoom.
Yeah.
I've been going to a Zoom therapist for a while. I do prefer the in person, but he's like, in a different zip code. It's kind of a trek, but that means that like it's going to be easier to switch from like a
Yeah.
live person therapist on the other side of that computer screen to like an avatar.
And we are seeing people want to come back in person more. That's a trend. So
Yeah.
that bodes well for us.
So there's the kind of the in person, and then just the space, the field. There's the person to person. There's like in groups, and that's some of the stuff that I'm working on. It's really how to sort of help people connect with these groups, these communities. But like the experience that we have, I mean, for both you and me, like, and for many of the folks listening, the experience you can have like going to like an in-person retreat, in-person workshop, a retreat that's kind of where there's this building of momentum of like a kind of energy and a kind of like coherence, coalescing, in the field. I mean, there's nothing else like it. And AI isn't going to change that, not for, decades,
Mm.
and that's something that's just really deep into our, and like as part of like our evolved psyche of like what it means to come together and experience transformation, experience, healing and learning and growth all together. Like I said, that's going to continue. But what does it look like, when the therapist is in the room with the client? Will there be like a bot that's like speaking up from time to time?
Hmm.
It's going to shift power, I mean, for so long. Yeah, I see that. For so long, it was like the therapist was the expert. And
Yeah.
there's both identity and then also like legal kind of responsibility. It's like you are responsible for what happens in the room. You are responsible for aspects of what might happen outside the room.
Right.
That might shift as well. We'll see.
Right. Right. And what I keep trying to offer to folks in this time, like there's a lot of uncertainty, right? We there are certain trajectories and ways that things could go, but we don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen. And when there's uncertainty, people are trying to look for what's the answer. And I really keep trying to preach, like, how do we cultivate a relationship with uncertainty that doesn't destroy us? We have to be able to sit in this uncertainty and follow the trends. Like, that's what I'm trying to do here is, pick up on what I'm seeing in the outside world and share it with therapists in a way that can help you feel less alone in the fear. Because I think we're at a precipice of the field will either evolve or it will stay at this level where it is right now, which is not actually going to help humans in the future, especially if we're starting to contend with what does it mean to be human versus an AI. Yeah, I don't know. I just said a lot of stuff. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I mean, hearing you say that, the other thing that popped in my head is I mentioned, how much my day-to-day experience, doing software engineering has changed. When I was at Google, I led this project on like the recipe guidance. Like I led one part of it. I was collaborating with other folks. And so I had a team of folks and, so I was delegating tasks. It's like, you work on this part, you work, this other person work on this other part. Like me working with the agents, me working with Claude Code, it's bring those skills back. So the challenge or like the question I have for therapists is it's kind of moving up a level. It's starting to think about like, okay,
Yeah.
what's your strategy for transformation for this client? What's
Mm.
the trajectory that you're seeing that you want to guide them? Or like, of course, it's co-created. It's not like, it's not planned, but there's a sense of like, oh, okay, this is the nature of their trauma. This is the nature of their reactivity. This is the way it's showing up in their life. Here are the kind of experiences or like, here's how I want to support them and guide them through, this path of healing and growth, and what parts of that can be delegated. That's the challenge. That's the question.
Mm.
So it might be
Mm.
just to give you a sense of what that might look like. It might be the case that like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like insurance won't cover you unless you are like giving the client like a chatbot to talk to when you're not there.
Yeah.
And like, and like providing that extra support. It might be like we,
Mhm.
decide to realize like, no, it's an hour a week isn't enough, isn't, sustained.
It's not actually. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for some people. I mean, I'm kind of thinking of when I learned NARM, I had asked in the training at one point, like, can you NARM yourself? It kind of makes me think of this, like if I had had a little NARM chatbot to have conversations with and be able to do that, like, would that have, I don't know, sped up my healing process? But then again, like, okay, I'm thinking about efficiency rather than thinking about actually helping people. It just, yeah, it feels like it's tapping into a way of thinking that is it's just challenging to think about things that have never occurred yet, things that we maybe have seen on sci-fi movies but maybe not. Yeah, I mean, humans are going to have to level up in general, but also therapists for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and I mean, one of the things that I've been talking about is how we train therapists will need to change. It needs to change to meet the world that we have right now. And so right now, schools are mostly focused on like evidence-based practices like CBT, DBT, all those sorts of things. And those are really helpful tools for many people for many reasons. And I don't necessarily see them as deeply healing modalities. I see them as more skill building. Don't come at me. I know, Charles, I know you're listening to this and you're going to be super mad, but still, I'm not a fan of CBT at the end of the day. I have one friend who always gives me shit about my anti-CBT. But what if schools were really focused on our own healing process? Because, And actually, I love your thoughts on this. As AI is right now, AI doesn't have personal experience, right? And so can't necessarily, you know, use their own healing journey in order to support a client through theirs. And that's one of the ways, like, I relate to my clients through my own experience and through my own healing of trauma and, all of the things that I've been through. I can use that as a tool. And AI can't do that. Do you think AI will ever be able to do that? Like, as you said, they have agency, and that really scared me when when you
Yeah.
said it that way.
Yeah, no, you're touching upon a lot of stuff. I mean, going back to, for many people, like, yeah, the education is around certain practices or certain, like, guiding people through like certain procedures. And that's the stuff that gets automated. If it's just
Yeah.
a matter of like, if it's a fill out on a worksheet, if it's like something like a step-by-step process, that's exactly what agents or like an avatar can guide somebody through. So then the question is, what's that like that deeper level of connection? And you really captured it. I mean, something about having a kind of awareness and connection and like a real kind of visceral kind of lived experience connection with our own like healing journey. Even like coming back to it, like remembering, it's like, oh, this is where we were. This is what it was like to kind of have that experience. Yeah, that's words on a screen aren't going to compare with that. You know. So
Hmm.
it really becomes a kind of like a matter of taking ownership over your own healing journey and then having clarity about how that can be something that you channel into contributing to others. So for
Yeah.
me, I got into nonviolent communication when I started at Google. I missed, I missed teaching. And so I started and, I learned about how, people would teach different, different skills, different languages, Jedi sword fighting, all the kind of stuff from Google from 10, 15 years ago.
I did not know that, but okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Swing dancing, all that stuff. And I was like, oh, I could teach NVC. And realizing it is a real kind of it was a real impactful journey for myself because I was working with a lot of engineers who maybe didn't have a lot of experience connecting with what they're feeling, didn't have a lot of
Hmm.
experience with like kind of the emotional or like embodied aspects of their experience. And so it really meant a lot to me. It was really profound to support people in bridging that kind of right brain and left brain, and
Hmm.
guiding people on some of the path, that I'd been through. And so that's something, yeah, that words on the screen aren't going to change, but it will mean being really clear and really strategic about like, okay, so what, how do you bundle that up when so much is changing? How do you bundle that up into something where it's like, okay, this is what I'm contributing to the world?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that all begs the question in your journey and all of the work that you've done, and really just as a human in general, would you consider yourself a healer?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if not, do I get kicked off? Do you pull the
Yep.
plug? I know.
I
Yeah,
eject
exactly.
you and then you shoot out of your seat into the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a reality TV show, some like blaring horn. Uh,
Yeah.
healer, I wouldn't, healer isn't the word that I would go to. I mean, I got clarity just popped in my head like a decade ago. Like, what am I here to do? I'm here to facilitate a transformation in human consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Yes.
every month I'm still checking in with that. Is that still true? And it's like, yeah, that
Yeah.
still resonates for me. So something about like being a catalyst. So I mentioned, we were just talking about like, therapists. It's sort of reflecting on like, and reflecting in a real deep way, like contemplating, like really getting in touch with what's your healing journey been, and
Yeah.
how is that you can continue and to serve others through that. And so for me it's been this kind of exploration around like different I can feel, if you're watching on video you can see me like
Mhm.
moving out of my head and like starting to kind of move. It's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can feel this kind of, ever since I was a child, this exploration of like different perspectives, different paradigms, different approaches, different modalities, different lineages. That's what I'm here to like help people connect to. It's like I saw around the corner, I can help point. It's like, oh yeah, you might want to go down this path, or you might want to, check this out. And um, so it's less about the healing of like working with someone, like guiding them through like, and that happens. I mean, I'm happy when there are moments like that where it's like I can be present and provide this kind of real kind of like sense of like a kind of security and stability and steadiness to be with somebody, especially when there's like a lot coming up for them. And
Mhm.
through NVC, through meditation, through IFS, it's like having learned like, how to be present with that, increasing my own capacity to be present with, somebody in distress. And at the same time, I'm drawn to something that's different from retail. I'm drawn to wholesale. I'm thinking like, what is it?
Yeah.
What sort of context to create? What kind of context can I contribute to support this kind of on a larger scale? In a way, it goes back to something you were mentioning around therapists. It's like just feeling stressed out. Seeing clients who are stressed out. You're talking about people within their practices, like noticing corners being cut. Like, I don't want to be negative, but it's like feeling like that. The pressure is ratcheting up.
Yeah.
And the image that came to mind for me is like, it's like you're a paramedic. You're in you're working in an ambulance in like Gaza, in like Ukraine, in like
Right.
Iran,
Right.
and you get people to the hospital, and it's like, yeah, no, they don't have steady power. They don't have antibiotics, and
Yeah.
it's like you're just tearing your
Oof.
hair out. It's like I'm doing as much as I can, and it's still not enough because the context isn't there, to catch, and just the stress that creates. It's stressful enough when there is plenty of like hospital support, when there is plenty of community support, but when you can't
Right.
trust that that's there, just how much that's, and especially for the folks who are drawn, the personality types, the Enneagram personality type, the folks who are drawn, the temperament, where it's like you're drawn to healing professions because it's so meaningful for you to heal. And you do empathize, a lot of highly sensitive people, like a lot of
Yep.
empathizers, it's like you do, like those mirror neurons, you're seeing somebody in pain, and there's that, just this kind of, at his existential level, there's that drive. It's like you want to
Yeah.
support them, you want to heal the pain. And it becomes like a practice of how to be both present with your own experience and also supportive, you know, but like it's so deep into, in us, and how painful it is when, you can't live up to those kinds of aspirations, or like you don't have the support, to really deliver in the way that you like to. Yeah,
Right.
and then AI comes along. I see this with my friends who are like high school teachers and university teachers. It's like the way that like now it's
Hmm.
like they were just trying to teach already, and now it's like they can't trust the essays coming in are human written or AI written, and just tearing their
Yeah.
head out. Also, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a really chaotic time. It's really destabilizing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we have each other, wounded healers, whoever else is listening to this. Because yeah, I mean, it comes back to community, right? And being in relationship with like-minded people who are doing our best to try to find footing at a time when it feels like everything is quicksand.
Yeah, yeah. So community, finding like the people where you can have your experience witnessed, having experiences. You can also like, I mean, the thing that's so profound, and I think is really tragic, is like people kind of arrive at a real deep sense of connection when they have these bonding experiences. When we go through adversity, where we're all part of like a shared learning environment. We experience transformation together. We support each other, in this path of transformation. I think that's so beautiful and so profound. And it's not happening when we're on our phones. You know, it's like, people used to go to movies and like,
Yeah.
laugh at the comedies together, cry at the dramas together. It's like there used to be this sort of shared synchronous experience.
Yeah.
And it's dispiriting to see that, like, yeah, that a lot of that's fading away. So that's also what I'm really wanting to kind of, I want to say, like, not so much oppose, but I want to like offer an alternative, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that for a little bit. We got to wrap
Yeah.
up soon, but yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. So it really is about getting people connecting in real time. So getting people away from the feed, away from like an alternative to the scrolling and the swiping, helping people connect with experiences like contexts where, there are like really helping people support people in connecting with these experiences where, like, participating experiences where they're learning, they're healing, they're growing together. And for me personally, just having a lot of really profound experiences at going to retreats, going to workshops, doing, taking Zoom classes. One of the nice things about Zoom is, you can do something where it's like, 4-week series, and like increasing depth in a way that's also compatible with people's schedules.
And around the world, you and I took a course from Khalid El Sherbini in Egypt, and
Yeah.
I just took a course out of South Africa.
It's amazing. I mean,
Right.
yeah. And that's one of the things that I found, like, especially as COVID, where it's like we switched to like being able to kind of, we all became conversant in like Zoom and like the norms, and, teachers, trainers, starting to, teach and train, through Zoom. And it's just opened up. So now it's like people all around the world doing amazing stuff. It's like we have access to it. It isn't just, the healers. It isn't just the gurus, you know, nearby.
Right.
Um, so for me, like just having been in these communities, many of the ones that I've mentioned, many others, seeing that like there's such a kind of hunger on both sides. There are the people where there's this kind of spiritual yearning. There's that yearning around healing and growth. And then the teachers, some of them are doing, so many sessions I've been in like a retreat or like a Zoom call, and I'm looking around. It's like there's 10 people on the screen. There should be 100. What
Yeah.
what is happening right now is so profound. It's so magical, and
Yeah.
this person is so good at what they're doing. It's like they are in their element. I just want to be like, I want to tell everybody. It's like you got to, next time this person offers it, you've heard me. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's how I got you to sign up for Dr. K.
Yeah.
It's like this guy's got something good.
Yeah.
And like so many others. I mean, you have like so many others experiences. So really like that was a kind of real kind of impetus for me. Working with some other folks, I was collaborating with somebody else for a while, but like really bring together the people who are like, have that yearning, but not sure like where to go, not sure how to evaluate. It's like you see, you do a search for Enneagram workshop, you're going to see 10 different schools. It's like, how do you choose between that? Like on Google results. And then the teachers on the other side, like how can they get on people's radar, reach people, market their offerings beyond their mailing list. A lot of these folks, they have their mailing list. They're not really that effective with social media, maybe it doesn't come naturally. Maybe they're kind of an older generation. So that's the project that I'm working on now. I left Google a couple of years ago, been working on this around building a platform to connect the seekers with the teachers, to help people find the teachers, the teachings, the offerings, the communities that are a good fit for them. Recognizing, there's that old Ray Charles quote, the old musician. He said, there's many spokes to the wheel. I'm a real big believer in that. That's part of vertical development. It's recognizing there's, different paths, resonate for different folks. Different paths will take us to different places that we need to go. And so that's what I'm building. So paths, and I say that really specifically. It's a platform. It's not just one path, but recognizing there's multiple paths. Multiple paths over the course of our life, or that we might be, even at the same time, exploring different paths. And so, concretely building a website, like a newsletter where you can subscribe. You can say like, okay, I want to subscribe. I want to see all the, upcoming NVC, like virtual NVC offerings, by all the certified NVC trainers, all the Enneagram offerings coming up by all the accredited Enneagram trainers, so seeing how like there's within these different communities, there's often like an association,
Mm-hmm.
that sets a kind of quality bar. So it isn't so much about, because I've also seen that, somebody getting like really energized. They take the weekend, Enneagram workshop, and then, Monday they set up themselves on Instagram as like, I'm the Enneagram guru, come take my
Yep.
class. It's like, there might not have been the kind of real depth, the real transformation taking place yet. And so really thinking about how to link up people with, somebody who have done the work, people who have
Yep.
done the work, people who have a kind of sustained commitment and have shown that sustained commitment. That's what I'm building now. So you can find it at Find Your Paths, paths.plural, findyourpaths.com. Starting out with these communities that I know so well. I'm getting certified as a nonviolent communication trainer right now. Before I was on the board of the Enneagram Association, I set up their websites. There's a lot of lessons learned from,
Mm-hmm.
how to support the membership, how to support the teachers, and knowing that community. All that channeling into this to hopefully, like I said, zooming out, it really comes back to what we were just talking about. People on their phones,
Yeah.
getting distracted from the kind of fulfillment that they can find in a community with others. Buddhists have a word sangha, a community of practice, a place where we come together, we're vulnerable. We're talking about what's real for us. Where, being open to being influenced and changed through our interactions with other people,
Yeah.
but where there's a container, it's also, there's like a trust that the people kind of, creating this space, have our interests at heart. A lot of what we've really lost, so many people have never had a kind of securely attached relationship to community. And
Yep.
so they're turning to the marketplace. There's a kind of a nihilism. So how to rebuild that? That's really this kind of personal mission for me. That's the vision, of
Yeah.
people being able to plug into the communities that are a good fit for them, that take them, in their journey.
Yeah. And I'm so excited for it to really be out into the world. So thanks, dude. How
Yeah.
scary was it? You made
Oh,
it.
that's it's great. It brings us back to our PDA and dinners. If you're in the Skokie area, definitely be sure I
Yeah.
think we can both put in a
That's
plug.
true. We could, if you want to come to our Skokie Pita Inn dinners, sure. Open
Yeah, or
invitation.
just check it out. It's some damn good Mediterranean.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just real fond memories of all this stuff, all the things we've talked about, all the sort of support. I mean, I think we've
Mhm.
both gone through some challenging times. Like health
Mhm.
wise, like various things coming up, and I mean, the word that comes to mind for me is continuity. Like really appreciating the continuity that you and I have both had,
Mhm.
and it's like that can be such a profound gift.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about like therapists and AI, it's like the LLMs, the chatbots really fail when it comes to that sort of continuity in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
of like, what does it mean to really know somebody? What does it mean to be with them kind of day after day, week after week, month, years, that sort of relationship? It's powerful, powerful
It
stuff.
is.
So what we're
It
here to do.
is. Well, where do you want, other than find your paths, or do you want to direct people to your website as well? Anywhere they can find you?
I'm like, I said, Enneagram type 5, I'm very cerebral. It's just, just like facts and data and just like calendar events. And it's like,
So leave him alone, is what he's saying.
nah, no, I'll figure out the channels to be reached. So what I'm going with that is like, but all my marketing friends, it's like, are telling me like, you're telling me it's like, no, you got to have personality. Like, it's like, got to put pictures of myself, got to, be on social media. So I'm getting there, but yeah, soon you'll see like, ways to see more about me. Some of the stuff that I shared, me talking about my own journey, about what these communities mean for me, that'll be on the site as part of giving people a sense of like
Yep.
where I'm coming from, why this is so resonant for me. I mean, I appreciate this opportunity to like put this into words because it's bouncing around my head, but it's like to get it out.
Yeah.
I'll capture some of what I just shared now you know, on the site.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You too. And I just gotta say, it's like I've been telling you this recently, but it is so inspiring to see. I mean, for you, just like as this real kind of healthy embodiment of that Enneagram 3 energy of like getting stuff done. And it's like seeing what the world needs and having this intuition of like, oh, here's how I can contribute in this way. Here's how
Mm.
and you vent, it's like I get pulled into all these projects, but it's like these projects they need you so much and you are like you're delivering so it's really inspiring. I mean, and seeing the smoothness, I mean, for you, just continuity and the kind of sustained effort, for you, like 300,
Yeah.
300s of episodes, of your podcast and the way that you really mastered. And for me, just as a guest, it's like, just the way that you really create this kind of the way that it's not so much about healing, but it's creating this kind of experience. What's healing for me? I don't know. I'll need some time to figure it out, but, create this experience for the guests and for the listeners. I think it's really beautiful and profound. So
Thank
thanks.
you. That means
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon
See you soon.
at Peta
Yeah,
Inn. All right.
for sure. Good talking to you. All right. Take care.